Today's episode is all about fun, having a great time, and I think we're gonna have a great time together tasting wines from a fun region in France, some interesting domain, making fun wines with even more fun labels to match. Let's get started. It's been a while since I've done any episode in English. I've done sporadically episodes in different languages, like in English or in French, but mainly 95% of my videos are in Mandarin Chinese. As requested by many of you, actually, you wanted something in different languages. So since today's subject is all about fun, so I thought, hey, why not do something different? Let's do it in English. I'll give you subtitles down here for those who need it. So as usual, before we get started, let's pour ourselves a glass. Pour yourself a glass as well, and you can write on a bullet point what are you drinking right now. Or you can share if you had some interesting wine recently, have a share on the bullet points, or you can do it in the comment as well. So for me, today I'll be having a few bottles from this domain. This domain is called Piton Paillet. It's a domain in Loire Valley in France. And it's a really interesting bottle. Just look at this label. It's basically a combination of the word bubble in all different languages. Like you see bubbles, you see in French bulle, pao, chi pao. You have, what's this? Amagwebu. Man, that sounds African. Anyways, let's open it up quickly and safely, and it's basically also a demonstration of how you should properly open a bottle of sparkling. So I've done a video on how to open bottles, how to do those kind of things, so if you're interested, you can definitely go take a look. So open the foil first, open up the cage, 5 turns and a half, fingers on the cork, 45 degrees, and let the cork push itself out. So this bottle is actually, I feel it. That's pretty good. So this bottle is actually called Brut de Chenin, which means a sparkling wine in a brut sweetness level, which is below 12 grams per liter. And it's made from Chenin Blanc, which is a very important grape variety in Loire Valley. So let's have a taste. I'm using a glass that I use all the time, basically for any wine. It's not necessarily the perfect glass for a sparkling, but personally I like to use a glass with a lot of bowl to capture the aroma from a sparkling, even though I know that a lot of people like to use those thin and long glasses for sparkling to see the bubbles rise. So, whoa, this is very deeply colored for sparkling wine. Yeah, you definitely get something like riper flavors, like almost dried apple peel, orange peel, some almost apricot-y flavor as well. So that's actually very ripe for a sparkling. Definitely, champagne will be in higher quality, will have more precision, more concentration than this one. But I think it's a very pleasant sparkling in general. And just this label, man, I'm having a lot of fun with this label. Bourbon, Bulle, Boljas, Tiboul, Beaubeloge. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing those correctly, but it's actually a lot of fun. I could study this label for quite some time while drinking it up, and maybe by the time I finish with the label, I figured out what the languages are, how to pronounce them, and the wine is already finished. And to me, that's a lot of fun. And here I want to add some of my personal opinions. So personally, I like to drink wine with friends and family and have a good time together. We can discuss about things we love, and we can share the passion for wine. But sometimes I will also have business dinners and actually drink some really good, really high quality wines. Even though those wines are excellent, I may not have as much fun. I may not enjoy those wines because in a business dinner, I'm kind of more focused about achieving the goal I want to achieve, and I want to make a good impression. And those situations may be a little bit stressful and not necessarily enjoyable. You don't have the focus to enjoy the wine. So the wines we're talking about today are definitely not for those stressful situations. Those wines are perfect for having fun with friends and families. Just look at those labels, and this one is already quite conservative as a label. Just wait till see the other ones. You'll be pretty shocked, and in a good way, sometimes for fun. So not all wines are good for all occasions. Even if the quality is good, it may not be perfect for each occasion. I really like wine as a beverage because there's such big variety of country, varieties, style, winemaking method, producers, vintages, all that. And there's also a big range of price, so there's a lot of subcategories. And what I find interesting is how to choose the right wine for the right occasion. To me, that's a really fun part about knowing more about wine. So the wines we're talking about today are definitely not for the business dinners. They're not serious enough, but that's actually a good thing because they're really fun. There are fun wines to share with friends and family, and they're perfect for having a good time with the people you can relax with. So speaking of fun wines, I want to start with those two. I mean, just look at this. When I first saw this, I look at the label, I was like, are you serious? Is this even allowed? This is, to some people, this is fun, this is different, this is innovative, this is provocative. But for some people, they will say this is a little bit too controversial, indecent, obscene, preposterous. There are a lot of words we can use to describe how we feel about this label, but definitely this label makes an impression on everyone who's looking at this. Whether you like this or not, that's really up to you. And I'm quite curious about this, so if you like this kind of label, you can put a 1 on the bullet points, and if you don't like it, put a 0. And I'm quite curious what you guys are thinking about this. So as a matter of fact, if you look at the back of the label, it's written Le Gros Lot, cépage historique de notre région, a donné son nom à cette cuvée. So basically means that the grape variety gave the name to the cuvée. Anyways, and then he says it's a vin de fruits, vin de copain, vin de casse-croûte, à boire avec quoi? Avec plaisir, which means what should you serve this wine with? Usually we're kind of referring to the food and wine pairing, but then he says avec plaisir basically means to serve with pleasure, to pair with pleasure. And I think that sums up the essence, the idea of this wine here. Now let's talk about the wine itself, and I want to start with the red wine first. So the name Gros Lot refers to a couple of things. First of all, this red wine is made from a grape variety, actually a very rare wine called Gros Lot, and it is a native variety in France, in the Loire Valley specifically. So the name Gros Lot is definitely derived from the grape variety Gros Lot. So another thing is that the word gros, spelled G-R-O-S, means big, and Gros Lot kind of means this. So you can definitely link that to the label itself. So the red wine, although the label is very provocative and really not serious at all, when it comes to the wine, it's actually quite interesting because the variety Gros Lot is a very rare variety and usually used in blend to make rosé. And on its own, it's not very easy to make wine because it tends to become very watery, not very interesting. And this wine itself is actually quite great example of what Gros Lot can be, and not many producers are making Gros Lot single variety wines, so this is a very interesting wine to try. It's very different from everything else we are used to see on the market. On the nose, this is a very playful wine. It's full of fruits, some herbal character, definitely something that's very playful. It is a fruit-driven wine that's easy to drink, something you can drink when it's young, and it's something you can drink around 15 minutes after you opened. It's not something you need to decant for a long time. It's something you can just open and enjoy. Now comes to the white wine. This white wine, Gros Lot, is made from a blend of Muscadet, Chenin Blanc, and Sauvignon Blanc. Those three varieties are the three important white grape varieties in Loire Valley. This wine is generally neutral with a slight semi-aromatic touch. This wine, because of those three varieties, which are actually quite high acid varieties, will be generally quite refreshing to drink. Now with this kind of profile, it's definitely a wine I want to have with some seafood, some delicate umami flavors. You know, you can think of oysters, clams, fish. Those are kind of things that go really well with this because the wine is not going to overpower those delicate flavors. Now if you're interested to try it, you can find them in my shop. I definitely recommend getting them as a pair because I think both of them are interesting and worth trying. But if you want to choose only one, I'd definitely go with the red wine because I find the red wine more interesting. It has a bit more concentration, it has more finesse, it has a little bit more complexity as well. While the Gros Lolo was a provocative, interesting wine, what I have in front of me, the Mosaic series, is a lot more classic style that you can find in the Loire Valley. So the white wine is made from Chenin Blanc and the red wine is made from Cabernet Franc, both at 100%, and both grape varieties are signature grape varieties of Loire Valley, especially in the Anjou-Saumur region. So the Chenin Blanc was part of the blend in the Gros Lolo Blanc, but now we're at 100%, so we can really experience what Chenin Blanc can offer. So the Chenin Blanc here is, I would say, quite typical to what a Chenin Blanc from Anjou should taste like. So it's a great wine if you want to explore what a Chenin Blanc should taste like. So a Chenin Blanc itself is a semi-aromatic grape variety. It's generally driven by fruit, predominantly apple, ripe apple, yellow apple. And then you also have a floral character on the back, such as chamomile, which is a very distinct and easy to recognize floral character from Chenin Blanc. It also has a little bit of honey and some minerality on the backbone. And in terms of structure, Chenin Blanc is generally a quite firm wine, meaning it has a great acidity, generally quite high, that will carry the flavor from the beginning to the end. It also has a little bit more body, it's a bit more round, a little bit more heavy. I quite like Chenin Blanc in general, so if you want to try Chenin Blanc, you can find that in my shop. The one I have is actually one level above the Mosaic series, the Fresnay, which is a little bit more concentrated, a bit more intense, more flavorful. Now the Mosaic Cabernet Franc I have here, to me is a very nice, easy drinking wine, something I can drink on its own or with food, and it's just very enjoyable. The wine has a good amount of concentration. The Cabernet Franc grape typically may have a lot of green character, like green bell pepper, roasted red bell pepper, but this one is not as green, or even not very green at all compared to most of the Cabernet Franc we see on the market, so that's actually quite pleasant. This one has a higher level of ripeness, higher concentration, and it's very pleasant fruit-driven wine. So the acidity is fresh, it's well balanced with the ripeness of fruit. At the same time, the tannin is also not very high because Cabernet Franc itself is not known to have very high tannin. This wine is in line with that, but at the same time, it's also generally a little bit finer tannin as well. So for the price, for the purpose of the wine, I think it's a very good example to try what a ripe year Cabernet Franc should taste like. This is a wine I would recommend you would drink for fun, for pleasure, and not to think too much. And if you want to explore Cabernet Franc, this is a good idea too. So if you want to try a more classic style of Loire Valley, you can definitely try a nice Chenin Blanc and a Cabernet Franc, because those two are great representative of what Loire Valley can make. Now if you like a wine with a bit of sweetness, you can definitely try a Chenin Blanc with a bit of sugar left in it. So this wine is actually a demi-sec sweetness level, which in our tasting would taste more like between off-dry and medium dry. So it's just a bit of sweet, but definitely not too sweet that you will say that this is a dessert wine. At the same time, this kind of wine will have a little bit more ripeness, so the apple and chamomile flower character will turn more into a candied apple jam, candied floral character, and also you'll find a little bit more honey in this. So if you like this kind of style, it's definitely something you can try as well. So there we have it, some interesting fun wines to drink with your friends and families. Sometimes the wine is not the focus of the gathering. The gathering is all about having fun, having a good time with your friends and family. You don't have to bring expensive, fine and complex wines that are very, very good, but they may take an hour or two to decant. It's a lot of trouble, and it's actually not necessary because perhaps your guest is not as educated in wine as you are, and their focus is not in the wine anyways. So this kind of wine is a perfect companion to those kind of situations. You can have fun and not think so much about the wine while having a good level of quality to ensure that whatever you're drinking tastes good and tastes interesting. So that's it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please leave me a like and share with your friends. If you have any question or comment, you can leave a message below or type it on the bullet points. If you're interested in wine and lifestyle in general, please subscribe to my channel because I believe I have a lot of content that you may find interesting. So thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Cheers.